Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Friday evening, which means it's time for us to do some meal prepping. I'm really looking forward to doing some experiments with you today. If we get enough time, we're going to actually not try, we're going to make some stuffed chicken breasts. We're going to stuff one with cream cheese and basil and pepper and stuff like that. And we're going to do another one with smoked cheese and tomato and bits, And then we're going to make a tomato and feta cheese with basil salad. We're going to make some rice for my dinner. And remember, I only need 1/3 of a cup dry to make enough rice for not only a meal, but also to make a small dessert if I want to. I'm also going to be making up some different butters. You will remember I showed you how I make my own butter. Today we're going to make different herb butters so that I can freeze them, and just depending on what I'm cooking, I can just pull out whatever I want. So this is some of my homemade butter. And let's get this going. I want to really thank you all for your support on these things because, it's really funny. I have great fun now just going, what shall I cook today for myself? All right. Because you all know that what I do is I cook my own dinner. And I'm thinking, well, it's about time I had some chicken. So hi, Iz. Good to see you as well. And Jody, for those of you who don't know, Jody is our admin. And Isabel, I just think I should say, if you didn't already know, Isabel, Benji and Judy's baby was born a week ago, and they called it Isabella. And I thought of you. And I'm certain you think that's an absolutely wonderful name for her. And she's absolutely adorable. And I just am so happy to be able to let you all know. I couldn't let you know at the time. I was under strict instructions not to tell anybody. But as the week went on, I was able to let people know. All right, so here we go. We're going to start off thinking about chicken. And what I wanted to do is to just make a couple of chicken breasts. Now, for me, a chicken breast today is half of a chicken breast, not a whole one. That's how my eating habits have changed with portion control. So you're going to see me play with a very small bit of chicken, and it might not even work the way I want it to, but we'll just keep experimenting. But what I wanted you to think about is almost using the chicken breast as the burger bun. All right. And then just put things in between it. And you end up with, we know that 1 cup is a good meal. If you can get to the point where you can eat 1 cup of something as a meal, you will know that you've mastered this portion control thing. I'm absolutely amazed now where if I have more than a cup, I feel like I've really gone overboard. And it is the reason that I have lost so much weight. And I'm pleased to tell you I'm still down. What did I say before I was down for this year? I think it's 12 pounds or 13 pounds this year. I think 13 or 14 pounds down this year alone. And I've done it just by eating a lot of small meals. I don't start eating. Have I had anything today? I'm not even sure if I've had anything today yet. And I'm not hungry because I've been drinking fluids and stuff. But so, I always have a major cook up on a Friday. So that's it. And I will start eating now. And so that's intermittent fasting for those of you who know what that is. And thank you, Jody, for teaching me that wasn't a terrible thing. It actually is a very smart thing to do. And I will say, Jody, what you taught me was how much I was eating because of the time of day. If I'm getting up, it's time for breakfast. No, it isn't. If it's noon, then it's time for lunch. No, it isn't. If it's 5 o'clock, it's time for tea. No, it isn't. So now for me, it's like, it's, whatever time of day that it is. And I go, now it's time to have my meal. there's a difference. And then what I do is I stagger that in little bits all the way through the evening. So I just keep eating all evening. I will show you how. Okay, let's do this. So let's get the oven on first. Oops. So I'm going to let the oven warm up. I'm going to do everything at 350, regardless of what the instructions might be. It's all going to get done at 350, so we don't have to keep changing the temperature. All right, so let us start by thinking about update. I wanted to update you. How many of you remember that I got I think they call it an Insta garden or something, the indoor garden thing? How many of you remember that I had real problems with that? It was not working for me at all. I thought I'd show you how a year makes a difference, all right? I've taken it out of its pod, but this is my basil plant that's been growing in it. Isn't that amazing? And look at the roots on it. Sorry for the reflection, but can you see amazing root system has grown? All right. So obviously when I finish this evening, this will go back in its rightful place. I think the reason that it's doing so well is I changed the lighting system. What else have I got here? This is a tomato plant that's growing. Look at the roots. All right. So the main thing is, I don't know what I was doing wrong last year, who knows, but this year it's doing a lot better. However, I wanted to make sure that you understood that I could have just grown it in my champagne flutes. But then you'd need to cover this, paint this black. So otherwise this will keep going yucky on you. However, you all also know that I've been growing this little bunch of chives from April the 21st. And all I do is every couple of days, I change the water in there, give it a clean glass and change the water. And look at the root system. You know how chives come with the roots cut off. Look at the roots that have grown since April. So I thought I would show you that. And how many of you remember me saying to you, I don't know what I do wrong, but I cannot grow lettuce to save my life? I have to take that back. At last, I have lettuce growing, and we're now up to, I do everything by how many leaves has it got. We're now up to, 4 or 5 leaves on the lettuce plants, which means it's doing pretty well. You will be getting updates on my lettuce growing ability. And I didn't know it, but did you know that lettuce doesn't like growing in the summer? It's a cold weather, early spring, fall type thing. So what I've got to find is an environment where I can keep it cool enough so that I can continue to grow lettuce. I will be doing that experiment. Some of you going, that would not be in your kitchen, Sal. What did it get up to in that greenhouse window? Definitely not in the greenhouse window. I think it went up to over 120 in the greenhouse window last year. I have a plan, of course. All right, so here we go. Let us start with the chicken. Well, wait for the oven to warm up before I play with the chicken too much. Let me start with some of the herbs, first of all. And I'm going to make some rosemary butter. This is rosemary from my garden that I have cut, dried, and now I will just put in with the butter. How many of you would throw the stem away? Don't. The stem alone can go in with when you're cooking a stew or anything else. It's still got lots of rosemary to it, really beautiful aroma, and that works. For those of you who were not there when I made butter, and if you want to know, I will gladly send you the link. It is really interesting to me that I lived a lifetime and didn't know how easy it is to make butter. So in with the rosemary butter, I'm just going to put a little bit of black pepper. And my question to you is, if you were going to use rosemary butter, what would you use it for? You know, in other words, when would you pull it out if you wanted to use it? And I've got some notes here that I thought you would value. If I can find it, let me find out the rosemary. Use it for chicken. That's why I wanted to get it mixed up, because I'm going to put some with the chicken today. Any sort of other poultry you might have, any game, if you cook lamb or anything like that, rosemary is really good with that. I say game, but a lot of people consider lamb to be that. Great with porks, great on steaks, and obviously on fish. So all I've done is just mix it all up like that. And we're going to use that in our, when we're doing our chicken. I wanted to start off by saying, how many of you know why it's so important to have basil in your house? Preferably a fresh growing plant that you can keep picking bits off it. I wanted to let you know that they call it the king of herbs or herbs. It's very difficult. I was brought up in England where you actually pronounce the H. So this is called the king of herbs. And the reason for it is it has so many vitamins, minerals, as well as antioxidants in it. And it's just like, if you can incorporate basil into your meal, you know, at least a few times a week, you will be a healthier person all around. I'm certain Jody knows a bit more about it. So what I'm going to do is the next one, I'm just going to take the top basil leaves here, just going to pinch off the top and cut that up. Just into small bits. And basically, you can use basil in with almost anything. What some of you might not know is basil is a really good thing to have with berries. And today I'm going to make a tomato salad with basil in it as well, just so that I get double whammy on the basil. So I'm just literally just mixing it in like this. And again, I'm going to put some pepper in there. There we go. So that's the basil one. Right, Jody's saying she uses fresh basil often. It's a favorite. So have you considered growing some in a glass? All right, so we've got rosemary, basil. Keep track of this, please, Jody, because I'm bound to forget. And then we're going to do, I'm going to do one with some leeks in it. Want to know what a leek looks like? This is a small leek. Normally they're about this tall. And for those of you who don't know about leeks, they taste a lot like an onion. They're sort of like an onion chive type taste to it. And this one I've just started. I cut it, the root off the bottom, and then just stuck it in one of these little baskets. And I don't know if you can see, I don't want to drop water. Yeah, I'm sure you can see that, right? The roots are already starting to grow. And while the roots are going down, it's, for the first couple of weeks, I will keep topping up the water every couple of days just to make sure that the roots are in water. Once the roots start to grow, it'll just find its own way down. It'll drink up all this water in here without my having to top it up. Isabel's saying, I don't know about basil, but I heard that mint can get away the spiders. So I have some. Yes. That's a good reason. So where do you keep it? That it keeps away spiders. I didn't know that, but be very careful. I don't know. I'm sure Jody will be checking it for us as we talk. What I do know is that it's a very invasive plant. So if ever you grow it in a container. Don't put it just in the garden. And also know that it likes water. So one of the best places to actually grow it is underneath your faucet almost. Yeah, inside does well. I don't have any this year yet. Funny enough, I need to start growing some. So for some reason, I haven't started growing it this year. All right. But as you can see, the leek is growing very nicely, and it's grown this much since when I put it in, it was absolutely flat. I had cut the bottom off it, just the root section. And it's grown this much in just a couple of weeks. So isn't that amazing? So we'll take some of that off. And two reasons. One is so that you could see what I did. And let's see how much it grows in the next week. Here we go. Jody says, mint is a great natural pest repellent. Most bugs, including spiders, hate mint. Add peppermint essential oil to water in a spray bottle and spray it over your home. I would also say spray it in the tracks of your doors. The bottom, if you've got around the sill of your doors. If you've got sliding doors, put a little bit of mint water in there or the essential oil. All right, so I'm just going on this third one. I'm just going to cut this out, knowing that this is like an onion taste. Oh, apparently we've got some in there as well. Now then, for those of you who eat leeks, which bit of the leek do you like to eat? The white bit or the green? And were you taught not to eat the green? It's funny, the old wives' tales, isn't it? Right, so I literally just chopped up some in there. I'm going to mix that in. A little bit of pepper. Now, leeks are really good for you. I just want to, I know I took a note here somewhere about leeks. They're very good in vitamin E, and they help with the elasticity of your skin. See, I've got such great skin for a 75-year-old, well, about to be 75-year-old, because I eat a lot of leeks. Yeah. But it does say it gives you a youthful glow. All right, and it contains very few calories. They're great if you're on a diet, especially because when you eat them, they fill you up. I don't know why, but they do. So I try to, incorporate leeks a lot in my cooking. I quite often use them as well as onions. All right, it's my green, eat the rainbow. I quite often will add leeks in for my green. Okay. And then the last one, I'm just going to make a lemon pepper one. Okay, that's that. Jody, I hope I remember these. And if I don't, not too bad. And now what I'm going to do during the course of this evening is I'm going to be filling up my ice cube tray. You can see I've got this big, this makes really nice square ice cubes. And I use it a lot for freezing small amounts of things. For example, I'm not going to do it, but if I were to use, let's say, some tomato sauce for something, and I had half a can left over, I would make ice cubes out of it, and then freeze it. And then the next time I wanted to make something that needed a tomato taste to it, I just bring out a couple of the cubes and put it in. Make sense? So I can afford to buy a big can, even though I cook for myself alone. Everybody get that idea? The next question, of course, is how many of you get fed up because tomato paste of any sort, messes the color of your plastic containers? And you probably, if you don't know, if you weren't there when I was talking about it, I wanted to let you know that it's so simple. If you've got a Tupperware type thing and it's got a tomato stain in it, just literally put about a quarter of a cup of water, a squidge of dishwashing soap, the liquid stuff, and throw in a paper towel, put the lid on and shake it for about 20 seconds. And the paper towel will absolutely absorb the tomato from inside that container. Now, the reason I'm repeating that is this week, I was doing an experiment with this mold, this silicone mold, because I've been making ice cubes out of it, like this, for my drink bottles. And I ended up with tomato stains on here. And it was not pleasant. Oh. But what I did was I did a combination of stuff, but I managed to get it clean, thank goodness. All right. So we're going to put those in a bit later. Now, the one I want is I think I'm going to use the chive one tonight. Now, as usual, I'm going to make this up as I go along. And, just bear with me. I'm going to get the chicken out. Let me wash my hands first. And let me get the chicken out. Now, I did think that these halves that I had were bigger than they are, but we'll work with it. By the way, I've been marinating them this afternoon in soy sauce and lime. I really recommend marinating chicken in that. So we'll take the slightly bigger one. That's a smaller one, so we'll play with that later. And what I'm going to do is slice it down the center. And the sharpest knife I've got, hi Sharon, the sharpest knife I have is this special bread knife I've got, but it works for everything. So I'm just going to cut it through the center there. And sort of make a pocket. Get the idea? Now, for those of you who are old school, you will remember that we used to make something called chicken Kiev, which was, we used to stuff it with cheese and ham. And you all probably know that. What I'm going to do today is to put that in one of my molds as the sort of base for everything else I'm going to do with it. So I just put it like that inside the mold. Got the idea? And then we're going to load it up. And the first thing I'm going to do is put some of that butter in. So that the butter will then cook everything else. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not. All right, so we've got some butter in there. And we're going to do, as this is the slightly bigger one, I'm going to do the, here we go, some Baby Bell smoked cheese. Come on, open up. Yeah. So I'm just going to cut that in half and put that in there. So now we've got the Baby Bell. And take some tomato. Do you know what I'm thinking? On the fly. You know, my second chicken breast is pretty small. What if I load this up and then use the second chicken breast as the top for it? That's what we're going to do. Okay, so we've got that in there. I'm going to put a little bit of celery in there. Right, because we've got some more greens here. We're obviously going to put some basil in there because we're talking about basil today, so that's more green. We like the greens. I'm just going to roll it up, the leaf, and then I'll cut it. There we go. Lots of green. And then we'll do a layer of cream cheese. Lots of protein, people. Think protein. Now, I've never tried this before. So as usual, it's an experiment. And then what I'm going to do is take that smaller chicken breast and put it on top. Wait, let's put some pepper on there first. So we're going to put that bigger bit that way, and the bits that are left over that way. What do you think? I'm going to top it with a little bit of lemon pepper. Oh, a lot of lemon pepper apparently. There we go. And now I'm going to pop it in the oven at 350. I would think for about half an hour, but we'll check it. And that is 1 cup. Now, what I've also got ready, I'm going to put that in immediately. But what I wanted to show you is I've got a third of a cup of rice in here that I've been stirring every now and then in the water here, and you can see how much starch has come away. So I'm going to pour off that water, put fresh water in. And I'm just going to stick a lid on it. And then the rice will cook while the chicken is cooking. I just need to go and put my fan on to blow the air this way because, as you know, my fire alarm, smoke alarm likes to go off when I'm cooking. And actually, it's normally pretty good with something like this. All right, so we now have probably, because I'm going to have rice with it, it will probably end up being enough for 2 meals. But in the meantime, to go with it, I want to I'm going to make a feta cheese, tomato, and basil salad. So we'll just chop some of this up. Now again, if you can, eat tomato every day. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. And as I said, I think Benji's thing about Eat the Rainbow helps you do that, because whenever I think I need some red, I just go and grab some tomato. So there's some tomato. I've got some feta cheese here. And I'm just going to crumble some of that in. And then just take a little more basil. I've been really looking forward to using this. So, nice little healthy salad. Now, I've got actually another tomato here, so I think I might make a bigger one, and for the next couple of days. Tomato doesn't do well for a long time, but I find that it normally is okay for have some today and some tomorrow. It should be fine. I forgot that I was going to do that. There we go. And so the rest of the feta. I was trying to use up what's left of the feta cheese here. I've got a new one. There we go. And put a little bit more basil in there. So, good color. Yeah, it is very refreshing. Just going to put that in the fridge. I just want to tell Alexa to give me a reminder here. Alexa, 25-minute alarm.
25 minutes. Starting now.
We're so modern, aren't we? All right, so that's good. Now then, what I wanted us to think about is, other than the regular chicken Kiev, where you put in cheese, normally Swiss cheese and ham, how many things could you stuff inside a chicken breast? And the reason I want you to think about that, because whatever you put in there completely changes the taste of it. For example, I've on this first one, the one that I'm doing today, I've done smoked cheese and so forth. I could have put brie cheese in there. That would have given it a totally different. And if the second breast had been bigger, I would have done brie cheese and apricot jam with the pepper, with the orange pepper, or with the red pepper. So I've. By the way, I buy my jam in big amounts, and then I open up the tin and put it into small amounts and freeze them like this. So all I'm using at any one time is just the little jar. Does that make sense? And of course, because mason jars freeze beautifully, when this is finished, it'll get washed and wait for the next time I open up something that needs a small jar. And that brings us to, we're going to keep that for some garnish. That's good. So we have done, think about it. I would think you can put almost anything inside a chicken breast. You know what I mean? You could do, I would have put bacon in if I hadn't run out of bacon. Luckily, when I went to go and find the bacon, I didn't know I'd run out, but apparently I have. So, or it's hiding somewhere, which is possible. And, I will buy more bacon and then I'll find it. You know that feeling. So the other thing that I want you to think about is, what else could you put in? All right. So I was thinking, cheese and bacon would be great. You could put all sorts of things. Isabel's saying, I never thought of freezing jam. I'm always looking for how do I buy a big one but only use a little at a time? Does that make sense, Isabel? Because I cook for myself. Now, you've got more than one person that you're cooking for, so you might not need to do that. But, I look for a deal on jams, no sugar added type jams. And then what I do is I buy a big can of it or a big bottle of it, and then I decant it into smaller ones and just throw it in the freezer. And it seems to last beautifully, regardless of what they say, how long. I know they say up to a month or whatever, and I'm going, yeah, right, it's till I get to it. And when I get to it, it's just fine. Thank you. Jam isn't something that's going to go off in a freezer, is it? Think about it. All right, so now then, what else have we got going here? We have, right, bacon, bacon, bacon. Bacon always is good inside. And I was thinking, if necessary, you could mix up cream cheese and bacon bits if you haven't got bacon. I couldn't find my bacon bits either. So think about that. The other thing I wanted to tell you, you saw that mold that I've got, the green silicone. I cooked some buttered chicken in there the other day, the same sort of way, where I had a layer of the buttered chicken and then I covered it with something else. And what I found was that the buttered chicken stained my green. And so I did the same thing as I put it in there with a paper towel some water, some soap, and paper towel, and then I put the lid on it and then shook it, and it lifted out the butter chicken stain. Jody's saying that's so relatable when it'll last until I get to it. Yep. I'm a great one. Now then, I've got another thing that I did, but I made a boo-boo. I'm not perfect at all. Yeah, now it works. I wanted to show you what I do with my water bottle in the summer. And so what I did was I half filled it. I've got dripping water all over my keyboard at the moment. Okay, so I half filled it, and then I put it in the freezer on its side. And now what I've got is a tube of ice. Can you see that ice here? But the only problem was I didn't have this end of it lifted enough, which I normally do. And so I managed to freeze the lid onto the the ice. So I've been trying to thaw it, and I've now managed to do it. But I've still got the ice in there, except my straw is still attached. So now what I'm going to do, you've got to see this. This is really typical Sal thing, right? So now what I'm going to try and do is put the straw back into the top. I don't know if this will work, but we'll try it. No, not yet. I've got to wait now for the, I really, I normally do this a much better way. But once the straw bit has thawed a bit, I'll be able to drink from it. But what I normally do is fill it up with something else. But you get the idea of what I was trying to demonstrate to you, except I did it the bad way. Don't normally have the straw in there when I freeze it. That was the difference. I was in a hurry today. You get the idea, though. But now what you've got is half of the container now has an ice block in it. So it'll last a long time like that. Well, way longer than I wanted to, apparently. So my dessert today is going to be, yeah, Jody, get smart about how you do it, not the way I did it today. I can't believe I did that to myself, but you know I'm human. What I'm going to do is to make a raspberry rhubarb, a couple of small tarts, okay? So I've got some raspberries, and here is a little bit of rhubarb from my garden. I'm just going to drain the water off here. And I'm just going to put it in with the raspberries. Now, for those of you who are trying to watch your weight or diabetic or whatever, what would you normally put in here as well if you were making a raspberry rhubarb pie? Because let me tell you what I found out. You don't need to put anything else in there. Just the fruit alone is, and you know, I love the raspberry because it gives it that tang, but, and you know, you probably think of the rhubarb being a bit tart, but you will be amazed at the taste of this. And I'm not going to add any sugar to it or any sweetener, anything. I'm just going to cook it exactly as it is. And that will come out when I put it into the tart. You know, the sweetness of the tart will compensate here. And I want to tell you, the combination is amazing. So I've just put it in the microwave with a lid on top of it so it doesn't splatter for 3 minutes. So what I wanted to do is to get mushed, well-known culinary term, so that I can get it into the tartlets easily. In the meantime, my newfound trick that some of you have been watching me do is to make a series of tartlets with chunky soup in them. And today I'm going to be using a hearty beef, vegetable beef. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. What did I do with the other one? Hold on, people. Oh, yes, because I'm making chicken. I was going to do the chicken one, but I'm actually making chicken and rice separately. So that's why I didn't do it. Okay, so I have to tell you that I have found that 2 of these is a wonderful quick snack. You know, like if I feel like late afternoon, I need something and I know I'm not going to cook until maybe 8 o'clock or something, I will just take 2 of those, warm them up, nuke them in the microwave, and they've got meat in them, they've got vegetables in them, and they are so filling. It's amazing. So again, another trick that I found. Who knew that that was possible, eh? Let's open that up. Now, I've also got my ice cube tray here because whatever's left after I've done the little mini tarts, what I'm going to do is to fill up ice cubes, because I have a feeling one of these ice cubes is probably just about the right amount to go into a tart. Do I still have and do I use my rice cooker? Yes, I do. It's underneath here. I use it quite a bit, but not so much now that I found out that I can cook 1/3 of a a third of a cup of rice in a mason jar while I cook something else. Does that make sense? If I were entertaining, I would use my rice cooker, and I use it as a slow cooker sometimes. I make my soups in it when I'm doing soups that are going to be going all day long, Jody. I will, hang on a second. No, it's gonna take too much. But what I will do is I'll have it on high to get everything cooking. Once I know that everything there is pretty well cooked, I will then turn it down to the keep it warm thing and just let it simmer for the rest of the day. And then I will put it into those molds that we've got. These are also 1 cup molds, and then I will just make little 1 cup soups out of it. And by the way, I was quite surprised when Doug was here. He was really interested in the fact that I'm cooking everything and then putting it into 1 cup portions. And I said, it's made such a difference to my life. Because if you thaw a 1 cup portion and it's so good, and you go, I'd like a 2nd cup, you realize that you're going to have to thaw a 2nd cup. And then you think, no, I'd rather have apple and cheese, or I'd rather have whatever. Hi, Kimmy, good to see you. So think about that. I think part of the reason why I've continued to lose weight the way that I have is because of the portion control. Okay, so I'm just going to do this quickly. And spill it everywhere. And by the way, for those of you who weren't here at lunchtime, we did a broadcast where I was etching things on Pyrex. And it's just such a great thing to do if you've got weddings coming up. To personalize something like a piece of Pyrex. It's going to last for a long, long time, and it's very useful. Now, this is not a condensed soup, so it's got way too much liquid in it. So I'm just going to pour off some of the liquid. Way too much liquid. There we go. But now what I've got left is the beef and barley. There's lots of barley in there as well. Okay, so I will keep the liquid to make soup with later, but this will be, I just want to see how many of these ice cubes I can fill up with this. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to make some tart mix as well. Duh. Before I put it all in the ice cube tray. All right, so we now saw that it takes 2 teaspoons full into each ice cube. Let's see how much one of these takes. 1. Yeah, about 1. It's about the same. That's what I thought. So this was my thinking. Now we need a couple for our, maybe 3 for our pies, all right? So what I was thinking is that if I freeze them in the little ice cubes, it's exactly the same amount that I need for one of these. So if I wanted to just quickly during the week say, oh, I think I'd like some chicken ones, I could just take out a couple of cubes and let them thaw and put them straight into the tartlets and boom, be done. Thinking ahead here. All right, and as you know, all I'm going to do is put the other one on top. Just squish it down with a fork so it looks pretty-ish. But stick a hole in it so this steam can come out. I cannot believe I never thought to do this before as a single person. But it really does work. And it definitely hasn't affected my blood sugar, which is a good thing. Sometimes it works better than others, apparently. Yeah. And that's going to be nice and easy. I just wanted to, for those of you who weren't here at lunchtime, I made this little stripe. I etched this little stripe on my casserole dish so that if I take something to a barbecue or a potluck, I know this one is mine because nobody else is going to have that little stripe in the corner. So really good idea to identify your goodies. Okay, so they will, when we take the other things out, this will go in. And the rhubarb was pretty, thin. And so 3 minutes has been plenty. And now I'm just mushing up the rhubarb a bit more. And you can see I've just now got a sort of pulpy paste, right? And that will go straight into these. So I haven't added anything to it, right? No sugar, nothing. Just straight raspberry and rhubarb. Question: have any of you had that combination? Certainly a lot of you have had strawberry rhubarb, but have any of you ever had raspberry and rhubarb? Because I really want to tell you, if you haven't had it, try it. Jodie's saying the recipes I've seen for rhubarb pie add at least a cup of sugar. Sounds like a bit too much to me. I want to tell you something. I have found, that having no sugar in there at all works fine. And by the way, I'm using regular tarts. I'm not using sweet tarts either, Jodie, just so you know. They're just the regular ones. So again, another way that I'm lowering my sugar intake. So let's put the tops on these. Now then, I know what you're going to say. How am I going to know which ones have got the meat in them and which one have got the rhubarb in them? So what would you do? All right? Because they're going to look the same. And I tell you what I'm going to do. You might not see it. Yes, I've put a lot of holes in the ones that are rhubarb. In fact, almost written an R with it. All right, so the ones that are just meat just have 3 holes, and these have got a whole lot more. So I will know which is which, hopefully. And how many of you are going, Hey, if I accidentally had a rhubarb pie instead of a meat pie, do I care? Oh, more holes, so more holes. Okay, so there we go, and we'll put those into. Oh, these will probably go in after the broadcast. But I can fit 3 of them into that. Okay, let me read here. That's so funny. As I was saying, I wouldn't mind if it's the wrong one. Isabel had written, but knowing you, I don't think you would mind. Yeah, if I picked out the rhubarb one instead of a meat one, yes. Kimmy's saying, I made lemon and rhubarb jam. Lemon and rhubarb jam. Put some honey in it and thought it was going to be bad, but it was especially good for a sore throat. Yeah, something, although I was saying at lunchtime that I'm very pleased to report that new medication they put me on has, touch wood, all but completely got rid of the cough. I had a little cough like that at one point today, and that is all I have done. None of this deep cough, coughing up my lungs, coughing up so badly I almost upchuck, that sort of stuff. That's, touch wood, that is gone. So I am really pleased to let you know that. And but what I did find out is that raw honey, if I started to choke a lot and I couldn't calm down, I found that a teaspoon of raw honey seemed to help. I think there's something about the wax in raw honey, maybe. I don't know what it was. It didn't stop it immediately or anything like that, but it definitely did make it easier for me to calm down. Sugar? I don't know. Because I want to tell you, choking the way that I was choking, and I was doing it for about 4 months, is scary. To wake up choking in the middle of the night where you can't get a breath. Not fun. For those of you who are asthmatic, it was, I would imagine what an asthmatic has happened. Definitely not a fun thing. Thank you, Alexa. Stop. She did. Alexa, stop. You have to tell her twice. So 1/3 of a cup dry rice makes this much cooked rice. And I will eat about half of it with my chicken. And then the other half, I will put in some milk and some raisins, and I will make a rice pudding. All right. So put that there. Now, let me strain it. I think it's still got a bit of liquid there. Not much, but a little. Now, this is just what I do. You've probably got your own way of doing this. But I will just put the lid back on and let the heat that's still in the mason jar just keep it moist and fluffy while I finish doing things. Kimmy's saying, what was making me cough and choke at night? I was allergic to the medication they gave me to bring my blood pressure down. And I've got to find out what the component was that I was allergic to, because obviously I need to put that in my medical records that I'm allergic to that particular thing. All right, so now then, put these aside for a second, because what I'm going to do is after dinner, I'm going to take these butters and also put them in the ice cube tray and then just freeze the whole lot together. Does that make sense? Now, my question is, if you were cooking up some mushrooms, all right, I think you'd probably use about half of that. Would that be fair? All right. And so what I'm going to do is just take like a teaspoon and put it in the ice cube tray and freeze it like that. Because if I needed more, I can take another little pat. Okay. So let's get golly gee, that looks so good. First thing, let's make sure the chicken is done. I did not waste money. I have to tell you something. If you get a meat thermometer, get a good one. And the reason I say that is because chicken medium, saying that chicken medium should be at 165. So I'm just going to. This is up to 180, so we know it's done. The question, that's the top. What about the piece of chicken on the bottom? Actually, let me cool it down first. Temperature at the bottom is 40, 63, 65, 66. It's done. So doing it in the little air fryer, that only took half an hour. And that, I have to tell you, I keep finding this. It's amazing how much more quickly it cooks things. All right, so we'll put that in water so it can. That's hot, Sal, don't touch it. Dessert before meat pies. Get your priorities right, so. All right, so the same thing as I'm going to put this on air fry, 15 minutes, 350. I'm actually amazed how many things I'm able to cook just quietly at 350 on that thing. So, all right, now let's get a plate for this. You're probably wondering, how are you going to get it out of there, Sal? No idea. I think I'll loosen it first, in case it needs it. It's quite runny, by the way. That would be the butter and the cream cheese, I would think. Now I need a spoon-like thing. This might not work. But then again, it might. Oh, it did. Now, think about it. That is 1 cup of food. Does that look good? So what we're going to do is put some rice with it. Okay, and from my experience, that's plenty of rice for me. And then the rest I will turn into a rice pudding. Jody's saying that's a great thermometer. I haven't used our new one yet, but it has that extra probe to leave in the meat as it's cooking in the oven. I like that feature as well. What I really love about this, I want to tell you something. The other thing I use it for, Jody, don't laugh. There have been times when I thought, I wonder if I'm running a temperature. Because I don't have a thermometer. And I go, yes, I do. It's called a meat thermometer. So now that looks pretty white, but we know that inside we've got the yellow, we've got green in there, we've got basil. So we'll just put a little bit of garnish on there. So let's take another little bit of color. All right, we'll put the basil there, and then what else? Something else I was going to put. Oh, we've got the salad. And I'm not going to put that on the same plate as the hot food. I'm just going to take it like this and eat at it. So what do you think? A nice meal for anybody. We got meat and vegetables in here. We got tomato, we got peppers, we got basil, all sorts of stuff. Plus we've got a salad, we've got a little bit of rice, and there we have hopefully what will be a very tasty meal, which means I got to leave, Well, and the rhubarb raspberry pies are cooking, and they're not going to make it past today. Easy to do. So what did I do? I used the chicken instead of pastry. So I did half a chicken breast at the bottom. No, a quarter of a chicken breast at the bottom because it was half already, and I cut it in half, all right? And then loaded it up with all sorts of fun stuff, and then put the other bits on top. So that's really just half a chicken breast, or a small chicken breast. Economical, good proteins, easy to do. Try it. This is DearMamaSal saying thank you for being here. And thank you for allowing me to do these experiments because I love to do them. If any of you'd like to come and help me clean up the kitchen later, I'd really appreciate it. I always say Jody needs to live more closely to me, and then she could come and do that. This is DearMamaSal, off to thoroughly enjoy my dinner. Hope you had fun. Is it something you think you could do? Is it a new way of cooking chicken, perhaps? And, I'm always looking for, easy ways to cook something that looks like it probably was hard work. And it wasn't, was it? This is DearMamaSal saying, thank you for being here. We'll see you on Sunday when we talk about coping with stress. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye for now. We're looking forward to the pie as well.